Most people walk into a dollar store and assume every price tag means they're winning. I used to think that too. Then I started actually comparing unit prices, and what I found changed how I shop completely. Nobody's talking about this, but dollar stores have quietly changed their entire pricing game over the last 2 years. The dollar isn't really a dollar anymore at most of these chains, and the products behind that price have changed just as much as the number on the tag. I'm not here to tell you to stop shopping at dollar stores. I still go every week. But there are certain items I stopped buying there completely, and today I'm walking you through all 12 of them, plus what I buy instead. Stick around, because number 6 on this list genuinely shocked me when I found out about it. I almost didn't believe it myself until I checked 3 different stores to confirm. Before we get into it, if you want more videos like this one, where we break down what's actually worth your money right now, go ahead and hit subscribe. I put these out regularly, and this is exactly the kind of thing you want to know before your next shopping trip, not after. Let's get into it. Item number 1. Canned vegetables. Canned vegetables used to be one of the best deals in the entire store. That's changing fast. The can sizes have been quietly shrinking for a while now. A lot of vegetable cans that used to sit around 15 ounces are now closer to 11 or 12 ounces, but the price has stayed close to the same dollar range. You're paying almost the same amount for noticeably less food. This is part of a broader packaging trend across the grocery industry, not just dollar stores. Manufacturers have been adjusting can sizes for a few years now as ingredient and shipping costs have gone up, and dollar store buyers pass those smaller cans straight to the shelf. I noticed this myself a few months back when I was stocking up for soup season. I grabbed 6 cans of green beans like I always do, and when I got home, something felt off. I checked the label and realized the can was smaller than the one I'd bought the month before. Same brand, same shelf spot, same price sticker. If you're going to buy canned vegetables, check the ounce count printed on the bottom of the can, not just the price on the shelf. Compare that number to what you'd pay per ounce at a regular grocery store during a sale week. A lot of the time, a store brand can from a regular supermarket ends up cheaper per ounce. This one's easy to miss because the price feels the same every time you check out. That's exactly why it's worth slowing down and reading the fine print before you toss it in the cart. Item number 2. Brand name snack bags. Brand name chips and snack bags at dollar stores look like a steal. The bag size tells a different story. These smaller bags are often what's called a compression pack, meaning the packaging itself is designed for smaller retail formats. The ounce count on these bags tends to run noticeably lower than what you'd get from the same brand at a big box store, even though the price gap between the two isn't nearly as wide as the size gap. Retail analysts have pointed to this pattern for a couple of years now, especially with snack brands trying to hit specific price points for dollar channel stores. The bag looks similar in shape, but the fill line inside is lower. I actually did the math on this with my own phone calculator standing in the aisle, which probably looked strange to anyone walking by. I compared the ounce price of a small bag of a popular chip brand against the same brand's bigger bag at a regular grocery store nearby. The dollar store bag came out more expensive per ounce, not less. Next time you're tempted to stock up on snack bags there, snap a photo of the ounce count and compare it later, or just do the quick math right there in the aisle. If the per ounce price isn't clearly better, it's worth waiting for a sale at a regular grocery store instead. This is one of those items that feels like a win because of the sticker price alone, and that's exactly the trap. Item number 3. Frozen pizza. Frozen pizza at the dollar store used to be an easy dinner win. That's shifted quite a bit. A lot of dollar store frozen pizzas are made under private label deals specifically for those chains, and the size has trended smaller over time, often closer to a personal or small pizza rather than a full size. The topping coverage tends to be lighter too, especially on the cheese and meat. This tracks with a wider pattern in frozen food where manufacturers create separate, smaller versions of products specifically for dollar and discount retailers. It's a different product than what sits in a regular grocery freezer case, even when the branding looks familiar. I picked one up last winter thinking I'd found a cheap dinner for the family. When I actually cooked it, The pizza barely filled 2 plates, and the toppings were thin enough that I could see the crust through the cheese in a few spots. I ended up making a second one just to feed everyone properly, which erased any savings I thought I was getting. If frozen pizza is part of your regular rotation, check the actual size in inches or ounces printed on the box before buying. Compare that to a mid-size frozen pizza on sale at a regular grocery store, because those sales often bring the price down close to dollar store range with a much bigger pizza. Don't let the picture on the box set your expectations. Check the numbers instead. Item number 4. Coffee pods. Coffee pods at dollar stores have become one of the trickier purchases in the entire snack and beverage section. Some of the pod boxes you'll find are smaller counts than what's standard elsewhere, sometimes 6 or 8 pods in a box that looks similar in size to a 12-count box you'd see at a regular store. The per pod price ends up higher once you actually break it down. There's also been a rise in off-brand or licensed pod brands made specifically for the dollar channel, using flavor names and packaging that look close to familiar coffee brands without being the exact same product. This isn't unique to coffee, but it shows up a lot in that category specifically. I'm a coffee person, so this one hit close to home. I grabbed a box thinking I was getting my usual brand for a fraction of the price, and it wasn't until I got home and counted the pods that I realized I'd paid almost the same per cup price as I would have at a regular store, just with a smaller box that ran out twice as fast. Count the pods before you buy, not after. If the box doesn't clearly state the count on the front, flip it over and check. It only takes a few seconds, and it can save you from restocking way sooner than you expected. Coffee habits are hard to break, so it's worth protecting your budget on this one specifically. Item number 5. Bottled salad dressing. Bottled salad dressing seems like a small purchase, but the math on this one adds up more than people expect. Dollar store salad dressing bottles tend to run smaller than the standard 16-ounce bottle you'd find at a regular grocery store, often closer to 12 ounces or less. The price difference between the two doesn't shrink proportionally, so you end up paying close to the same amount for noticeably less dressing. This fits into a broader pattern across condiments and sauces at dollar and discount retailers, where package sizes get adjusted downward to hit specific price points rather than specific portions. I used to buy my ranch dressing there every single week without thinking twice about it. It wasn't until I ran out faster than usual, multiple weeks in a row, that I actually checked the bottle size against what I remembered buying at my regular grocery store. The gap was bigger than I expected, almost a quarter less product for close to the same price. Check the ounce count on the bottle before assuming it's the better deal. A lot of the time, a big box grocery store's store-brand dressing on a regular sale week beats the dollar store version by a wide margin per ounce. This is a small item with a small price tag, but over a year of weekly shopping, it adds up more than people realize. Item number 6. Store-brand cereal. This is the one I mentioned at the start, and it's the one that genuinely caught me off guard. Dollar store cereal boxes have been shrinking in a way that's easy to miss because the box shape and height haven't changed much. What's changed is the depth of the box and the fill line inside, meaning the same size box on the shelf can contain noticeably less cereal than it used to. Food packaging researchers have flagged this exact pattern across the cereal category broadly, not just at dollar stores, but discount chains tend to lag behind on updating their box dimensions to match the smaller fill amounts, which makes the size difference less obvious to shoppers. Here's why this one shocked me. I buy cereal for my kids every single week, same brand, same box, for over a year. When I poured a bowl one morning and the box was already almost empty, less than halfway through the week, I actually went and checked the weight printed on the box against a receipt I still had saved on my phone from months earlier. The weight had dropped by close to 15%. Same box, same price, same shelf spot. Weigh it if you can, or at minimum check the ounce weight printed on the box every single time, even for brands you buy regularly. Don't assume last month's fill line matches this month's box. If the weight looks smaller than you remember, it probably is. This is exactly the kind of change that's easy to miss until it directly affects your routine, which is why I wanted to flag it specifically. Item number 7. Cooking oil. Cooking oil bottles at the dollar store look like a solid deal until you actually check the ounces. A lot of dollar store cooking oil comes in smaller bottles than the standard size you'd expect, sometimes noticeably less than what a regular grocery store carries at a similar price point. Vegetable oil prices in general have been volatile over the past couple of years due to ingredient costs, and smaller bottles are one of the ways retailers have adjusted without raising the sticker price. This is a pattern that's shown up across the cooking oil category broadly, driven by ingredient sourcing costs rather than anything specific to dollar stores, but the smaller bottle format tends to be more common at discount retailers specifically. I switched to buying oil there for a few months to save money, and it wasn't until I compared how often I was restocking that I realized something was off. I was buying oil almost twice as often as I used to, which meant my actual monthly spending on oil hadn't gone down at all. It had just shifted into smaller, more frequent purchases. Check the ounce count on the bottle and do the quick math against a big box store price during a sale week. Buying oil in bulk at a warehouse store, if that's available to you, is almost always the better long-term move for a pantry staple like this. Cooking oil is one of those items where buying smaller and more often quietly costs you more over time, even if each individual purchase feels cheap. Item number 8. Multi-pack candy bars. Multi-pack candy bars are one of the most common impulse buys at the checkout counter, and they're also one of the sneakier deals in the store. The pack counts on these have shifted in a lot of cases, going from 10 or 12 bars down to 8 or 9, while the box size and shelf price have stayed close to the same. It's an easy change to miss because most people grab the box without counting what's inside. This tracks with candy and confectionery trends broadly, where ingredient costs like cocoa have pushed manufacturers to adjust pack counts rather than raise prices directly, since price changes are more noticeable to shoppers than count changes. I grabbed a multi-pack for a family movie night last month, assuming there'd be enough for everyone plus a couple extra. I counted them out at home and came up 2 bars short of what I expected based on past purchases. It wasn't a huge deal for movie night, but it made me start actually checking the count on the box every time now. Count the bars printed on the box before you buy if you're getting it for a specific purpose like sharing or gifting. If the count is lower than what you remember, the per bar price has gone up, even though the box price looks the same. It's a small thing, but it's the kind of small thing that adds up if candy is a regular part of your shopping list. Item number 9, sandwich bread. Sandwich bread at the dollar store is one of those items that seems like an obvious win on price alone, but the loaf itself tells a different story. A lot of dollar store bread comes in shorter loaves with fewer slices than a standard loaf, sometimes closer to 16 slices instead of the standard 20 or 22. The bread is also often a lighter, more air-filled loaf, meaning it doesn't hold up as well for sandwiches and tends to go stale faster. This fits a pattern that's common with private label bread made specifically for discount and dollar retailers, where the recipe and loaf size are adjusted to hit a specific price point rather than matching the standard bakery loaf found at regular grocery stores. I started buying bread there for school lunches because it was the cheapest option on the shelf. Within a week, I noticed I was going through loaves faster than usual, and the bread itself seemed to get stale by day 3 or 4 instead of lasting the full week like my usual brand. Check the slice count on the bag and compare it to what you're used to buying. If you're making lunches or sandwiches regularly, a slightly more expensive loaf that lasts the full week and holds up better might actually save you money by cutting down on waste. Bread is one of those staples where quality directly affects how much you end up throwing away, so it's worth paying attention to. Item number 10. Bagged chips. Bagged chips deserve their own spot on this list, separate from brand name snack bags, because the store brand versions have their own issue. Store brand bagged chips at dollar stores often use a thinner cut and more oil in the frying process compared to name brand versions, which affects both the taste and how filling the bag actually is. The bag size also tends to run smaller than what you'd expect based on the shelf price. This is common across private label snack lines generally, where manufacturers cut costs on the product itself in ways that aren't always obvious from the packaging, since the focus is on hitting a specific retail price rather than matching a specific product quality. I bought a few bags for a get-together, thinking I was saving money compared to buying name-brand chips elsewhere. A couple of guests mentioned the chips tasted noticeably greasier than what they were used to, and looking back at the bag afterward, it was smaller than I'd assumed when I grabbed it off the shelf. If you're buying chips for an event or for regular snacking, check the bag weight and consider sticking with name brands you trust, even if it costs a bit more per bag. The difference in how filling and satisfying the chips actually are can be worth the extra cost. This one's more about product quality than pure pricing, but it still affects the actual value you're getting for your dollar. Item number 11. Spice and seasoning packets. Spice and seasoning packets look like a tiny purchase, but the value math on these has shifted quite a bit. Dollar store spice containers tend to be noticeably smaller than the standard size sold at regular grocery stores, sometimes less than half the amount, while sitting at a price point that isn't proportionally lower. Once you calculate the price per ounce, a lot of these end up more expensive than the name brand version at a regular store. This is a well-known pattern in the spice aisle broadly, since spices have a high markup to begin with, and dollar retailers use smaller containers specifically to hit their standard price point rather than adjusting the price to match a smaller container. I used to grab spices there without thinking much of it because everything felt cheap by default. It wasn't until I compared a container of garlic powder there against the same brand at my regular grocery store that I realized the dollar store container was less than half the size for almost the same price per container. Check the ounce weight on spice containers specifically, since this is one of the categories where the size difference is easiest to overlook. Buying spices in bulk from a warehouse store or an international grocery store often ends up dramatically cheaper per ounce if those options are available to you. Spices are a small line item individually, but if you cook often, this is one of the categories where the savings add up the most once you start comparing properly. Item number 12. Multi-pack, bottled water. Bottled water multi-packs round out this list, and they're a good example of how a bulk-feeling purchase isn't always the deal it looks like. Dollar store water multi-packs often come in smaller bottle sizes, sometimes 8 ounces instead of the standard 16 or 20 ounces, while the pack count and box size stay similar to what you'd see elsewhere. This makes the box look like a comparable deal at a glance, even though the total amount of water inside is meaningfully less. This tracks with a broader trend of smaller bottle formats appearing across the beverage industry as a way to adjust pricing without changing the shelf price directly, and dollar retailers have leaned into this format more than most. I grabbed a case for a family road trip last summer, assuming it would last the whole drive comfortably. We went through the entire case faster than expected, and it wasn't until I looked at the bottle size on an empty one that I realized they were half the size of what I normally buy for trips like that. Check the ounce count per bottle, not just the total pack count, especially if you're buying water for a specific purpose like a trip or an event. A slightly more expensive multi-pack with full-size bottles from a regular grocery store often works out cheaper per ounce in the end. This is a good one to remember specifically for anyone planning ahead for a trip, an event, or just general household stocking. The pattern behind all of this. If you've made it this far, you've probably noticed the pattern repeating across every single item on this list. It's rarely about the price on the sticker going up. It's about the amount of product behind that price quietly going down. This isn't about avoiding dollar stores altogether. There are still genuinely good deals there, especially on household basics, party supplies, and seasonal items. But food and pantry staples are where this size and quantity shift shows up the most, and it's exactly the category most people shop on autopilot without double-checking. The real fix here is simple. Get in the habit of checking ounce counts, slice counts, and pod counts, not just the price tag. It takes a few extra seconds in the aisle, and it's the difference between actually saving money and just feeling like you are. Most people won't start doing this until they notice it themselves, the same way I did. By then, they've usually already overpaid for months without realizing it. You're getting ahead of that today. This is really about protecting your budget without cutting corners on what your family actually needs. A few seconds of checking labels is a small habit that pays off every single week. If this kind of breakdown was useful, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one. I've got more of these coming where we go category by category through the stuff people buy without thinking twice. Drop a comment and let me know which one of these surprised you the most. I read every single one. Take care of your budget, and I'll see you in the next video.